Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another Monday night fire, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashima Mashiach, Wamalaki Bashai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring for the second coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent, and they're abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, zealous, diligent, and on fire, moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom to the ancient men, shalom to the children, and shalom to the elect of Israel scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth, and everybody tuning in live through the spirit and power of Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, right? Everybody should be keeping track of the upcoming feast day. The next major feast day is none other than the Passover. April 1st at sundown is the Passover, which is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I'm going to say it again. April 1st at sundown, right? That's next week, next Wednesday night. It's the Passover, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, through the spirit and power of Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. And this is the time, let's get a quick precept, right? This is the time where brothers and sisters must be looking deep within, examining their spirits, and purging out leaven and purging out the old man and all manner of confusion, wind, sin, and things that separate us from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? This is John 11:55. And the Jews' Passover was nigh at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. And it was an actual physical custom in the ancient world to literally purify yourself, right? You would have these large basins, for lack of better terms, of water, and they would go to the temple, and they would go out and they would purify themselves, wash their hands, wash their feet, because they wore sandals in the ancient world, wash their beard, and they would purify themselves, right? That's always a custom amongst the Jews. And that actually goes back to the wilderness, where the Lord told us to sanctify ourselves, come out at our wives, purify yourself, because the Lord was going to come down and actually give us the law at that time. And it's always been a custom amongst the Jews, amongst the Israelites, for purification, right? And that's something that brothers do physically, but also spiritually. It's more important to purify yourself spiritually than it is physically, all right? Because when you purify yourself, you're removing impurities, which are demons, bad habits, old man traits, characteristics that aren't comely, spirits that you have embedded in you, knowingly or unknowingly, that are separating you from truly walking uprightly in these last days before the Passover. So it was always a custom amongst the Jews to purify ourselves, right? Let's go to Matthew real quick, 26. And also, we're going to take this time too to answer any questions about the Passover. There's a lot of brothers, it's their first time keeping the Passover. A lot of families, it may be their first time keeping the Passover. Sisters, it might be their first time keeping the Passover. And also, it's a refresher. We go over this every year, like clockwork, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. It's often a refresher too, just to make sure, with the Passover being a very, very, very weighty, holy ceremony, that all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted, right? This isn't the time to forget anything, because the Most High commands us to be proactive, be diligent, and make sure that all things are in order, right? This is St. Matthew chapter 26 and 17. Now, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And that was on their mind. Their mind was how are we going to get ready to partake in the Lord's feast day? Right? They had a proactive mindset. They weren't reactive. They weren't waiting until the very last second and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They were on point. And he said, well, the Passover is coming up. How are we going to get things done? So when you read this account, the Lord sent Peter, he sent John, and they got the Passover ready for the rest of the apostles and our Lord and King Yahushua. But this should be our mindset. Wherewithal that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover, and making sure that brothers have all of the things that they need to actually eat of the Passover: lamb, bitter herbs, unleavened bread, and wine, right? Those are the 4 requirements on a physical level that must be consumed during the Passover, right? Let's go to 2 Chronicles, right? So make sure that brothers and sisters, you have those things, man. Nobody should be eating. I mean, we've seen certain years, not in this body, but in the nation of Israel, we've seen brothers eating fried chicken, greens, orange pop, what was that, macaroni and cheese, man. They turned it to a Negro meal. I saw one person, this was probably like 4 years ago, they were eating hot dogs on the Passover. I'm not saying the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We're talking the first day. We're talking Passover night. They had bitter herbs, hot dogs, and unleavened bread. This is let's go to 2 Chronicles. And that's inexcusable, right? Inexcusable. 2 Chronicles chapter 35 and verse number, let's start at 4. Now, this is during Josiah through the Spirit. Hezekiah kept a beautiful Passover, but Josiah kept a very, very beautiful Passover. Now, here's what the King Josiah charged the people to do and what spirit they were advised to be in when he hosted the Passover. This is 2 Chronicles 35 and 4. It reads, I'm going to start at 3. And said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto the Lord, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now the Lord your God and his people Israel. So Salaki, bear with me 1 second. Salaki, yeah. Let me got to get brothers in here. So bear with me. Right, so bear with me for a quick second through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, let me get this going. All right, through the spirit. And I'm going to go back to that precept. All right, let me go back to this. All right, so let's go back to 2 Chronicles chapter 35. All right, let's read this again. 2 Chronicles 35 and 3 from the top. And said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto the Lord, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now the Lord your God and his people Israel. And prepare yourselves by the houses of your fathers, after your courses, according to the writing of David, king of Israel, and according to the writing of Solomon, his son. Because King David set the priest up in different courses, right? And he set them up in a particular order. And that's what Josiah was reinstating within the priesthood, the ordinances that David set up, and Solomon with their courses of singing men and singing women, etc. But one part of this verse that I really wanted to touch on was the beginning, right? It says, and prepare yourselves by the houses of your fathers. And everybody should have that list. We send it out every year that has all of the different leavening ingredients, because again, for brothers that might not know, you have different names of yeast and leavening agents. And it's not, every package isn't just going to say yeast on it or leaven, right? There's a plethora of different names that these doubles are putting out there that are actual leavening agents. And most are willing, brothers actually see that, your family see that, and you get this leaven out of your house through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. right? You diligently search through your cabinets, through your refrigerator, through your freezer, right? Through your pantry, through wherever food is known to be stored, and also where food may not be known to be stored, because things happen. You want to make sure that you're getting rid of these crumbs and this leaven. That's how you prepare yourself by the house of your father. Now, the amount of effort that you put into removing leaven from your house is a direct reflection of the amount of effort that you put into removing leaven from your spirit, right? And from the spirit of your household. Those who have a lackluster effort when it comes to removing leaven from their household, they often have a lackluster effort when it comes to removing sin from their vessels. Those who have great diligence in preparing themselves and reading through every ingredient and double checking and triple checking, and those households tend to be more clean and zealous and closer to Yahweh Bashmi. So that's the practicality of the law. When the Most High is commanding us to remove leaven from our house, it's a physical work that should be done in the spirit, right? So let's read on. 2 Chronicles chapter 35 and 5. And stand in the holy place according to the divisions of the families of the fathers of your brethren, the people, and after the division of the families of the Levites. So kill the Passover and sanctify yourselves and prepare your brethren that they may do according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses. Right? So the Passover is the Passover lamb. No goat, no chicken, no roast beef, no doing your own thing. You're commanded to eat the lamb of the Passover. And you're commanded to sanctify yourself. Don't eat up the Passover, with a spirit of lust. You're in the midst of the talking to another man's wife and you're eating the Passover, right? Or you really don't believe in this truth, but you just want to eat it because you never had lamb before, right? Or the lamb that you had at, your favorite restaurant wasn't good enough. You had a bad experience. So now you want to try the Hebrew lamb, right? I heard the Hebrew lamb is good. They know how to get down. So you get a garment and you sneak into somebody's Passover and you're eating the lamb and you're licking all of your fingers and you don't even know what's going on. Some brothers go to Passover to have a free glass of wine. They spent their last money on gas, or they had to pay. You have to pay fees and expenses. I'll just put it like that. And they heard it's free bottles of wine on the Passover. They didn't try the white wine, they didn't try the Riesling, they didn't try the Zinfandel, and they didn't try Cab and all these wines, but they never tried kosher wine. Right? And they want to try kosher wine for the first time. So again, they put a mitre on, show up with a garment, and they rushing through the lesson just to get to the wine. So sanctify yourselves and prepare your brethren. How do you prepare your brethren? By instructing them in the ways of the Lord. That's how you prepare your household. Your house should be completely aware that the Passover is April 1st at sundown. And like we say every year, it shouldn't just be a brother that's showing up and he's cooking lamb, but his son doesn't know what's going on. His woman doesn't know what's going on. They just think it's lamb night. This the third year in a row is lamb dinner. You're telling them you're making your famous lamb with your famous sides, bitter herbs and unleavened bread, but they don't know it's the Passover. Only you know it's the Passover. That's not you preparing your household, right? You told them it's just your annual lamb dinner. Prepare your brethren that they may do according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses, right? I'm going to read two more. And Josiah gave to the people of the flock lambs and kids, all for the Passover offerings, for all that were present, to the number of 30,000 and 3,000 bullocks. These were of the king. These were of the king's substance. And his princes gave willingly unto the people, to the priest, and to the Levites, Hilkiah and Zechariah, And Jahiel, rulers of the house of God, gave unto the priest for the Passover offerings 2,600 small cattle and 300 oxen. I'm going to read on. And the beautiful part is they willingly gave unto the people, right? So they were in a beautiful spirit to willingly offer themselves for the Passover, for the king and for the people, right? Second Chronicles 35:9. Conaniah also, and Shemaiah, and Nathanael, his brethren, and Hashabiah, and Jaliel, and Jozabad, chief of the Levites, gave unto the Levites for Passover offerings 5,000 small cattle and 500 oxen. So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their courses, according to the king's commandment. And to organize such a beautiful Passover, it took a lot of teamwork, it took a lot of sacrifice, it took a lot of zeal, organization, and it took a lot of order and communication to get this thing done that Josiah kept. And this Passover is 20 times greater than any Passover than any Israelite has ever kept here in Babylon the Great, because the service was prepared and everything was done decently and in order, right? So as we begin to keep the Passover through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Bashai, we have to make sure that we're doing the exact thing, exact same spirit, right? Or we're moving rather in that exact same spirit that Josiah, Hezekiah, David, our fathers did when they kept the Passover. So if there's any questions about the Passover, we're going to also use this time for the Monday Night Fire to be able to answer those questions about the Passover. You might have a question that's similar to something that somebody else might have. So, and there's no such thing as a foolish question for the Passover, right? The Most High speaks about not being bashful to the point where you overthrow yourself in the Apocrypha. So, right, I believe the 20th chapter, right? Let me actually get that real quick. Let me get Amos in here. Shalom, King.
Shalom, King.
How you feeling? All praise to the Most High.
Enduring through the spirit. How about yourself, King?
Kind. Same through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, man. Excited for this Passover.
All praise to the Most High. Is this fan loud? Can you hear it?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear it, but it's not like crazy loud.
I'm gonna turn it off.
Okay, God. All right, this is a quick precept. This Sirach chapter 20 and 22. There is that destroyeth his own soul through bashfulness, and by accepting of persons overthroweth himself. So you don't want to overthrow yourself during the Passover. This is not the time. Now, we're all in the flesh, and nobody's keeping the Passover perfectly. I don't care who they are, what congregation it is, and what the hell they said. Nobody's keeping the Passover the way that our forefathers kept the Passover in their land, right? There are no Levitical priests. Nobody's in Jerusalem, right? Nobody is guaranteed they have a lamb of a male of the first year, and you took it on the 10th day. You're supposed to take it on the 10th day and raise it up to the 14th day, and you got to slay it on the 14th day at even, with the legs and the heads and the pertinence thereof. And there's a lot of ordinances that go into the Passover. So don't be discouraged knowing that you may not be able to keep the Passover the way that you read it verbatim in the text. This is why we're rehearsing the righteous acts, right? We're rehearsing the righteous acts. We're praying to Yahweh Ba'ashmi Abushah for mercy. And we understand that even our righteousness and things that we put our hand to are filthy rags. Let me get that too real quick, Salakia, in Isaiah, right? That our righteousness are likened unto filthy rags in Isaiah the 64th chapter, right? Let's get this. This Isaiah, Salakia, Isaiah chapter 64 and verse 6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. And we all do fade as a thief, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. Right? So that's a precept that always puts our life into perspective when it comes to serving the Most High. Because a lot of times brothers may get discouraged, or you may feel like, oh, I'm not keeping it. the perfect way, like my fathers Moses and Josiah and Hezekiah. In the eyes of the Most High, it's about you understanding you're in grace, repenting, and keeping these commandments to the best of your ability. You understand? But it's also not an excuse for you to willingly drop the ball, right? It's for you to give that effort and to show the Most High. See, the law also says, not to be long-winded, the law says that you serve the Most High with all your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul. That's Deuteronomy 6 and 5 on down, right? That's one of the chief commandments that even Yahweh Shai doubled down on, right? He says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord, and thou shalt serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, and all thy strength." Greatly paraphrasing. He said, this is the first commandment, right? So understanding who the Most High is immediately followed by serving the Most High with all your heart, your mind, body, soul, and strength, right? So if you have to get a grill, then you get a grill. If you have to go out and get that unleavened bread and get that flour, get that flour. If you go out and get that wine, get that wine. Making maximum efforts to serve the Most High is what's pleasing to the Heavenly Father, compared to those on the contrary who give a half stepping, not trying to be more colorful with my language, but you understand what it is, man. Right, but you got it, King.
Con. We was bringing it up. Let's just go to Judges 5 and verse 11.
Con.
Right, like the brother was saying, nobody is keeping it 100% the right way. Right? Truthfully, we're supposed to be in Jerusalem keeping the Passover. But the Most High is seeing our righteousness, or at least attempting to show our righteousness towards him by keeping these high holy days. Right? Yeah, you're going to have some hiccups. Right? We're reversing a lot of the ideologies of Babylon, trying to hold fast to the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to our forefathers. So it takes time to get things right. Right? You don't want to overthrow yourself and beat yourself up and, down yourself. Right? We're still figuring this out. We're all babes in this thing. Right? We haven't been keeping this since our birth. Right? So we're seeing small things that we have to fine tune. That's the point of rehearsal. Rehearsal is when you go through a series of practices until it's time for the grand opening. Right? So when the grand opening happens, everything is tip-top shape. Right? But this is Judges chapter 5 and verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of the archers in the places of drawing waters. Right? Where are the places of drawing waters? Our captivities. Right? Drawing waters is servitude. Right? That's a laborious act. Right? There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of the villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Right? So as we're rehearsing these righteous acts, right, if the Most High has mercy upon you, you're able to do better the next year if the Lord sees fit. Lord willing, this is the last Passover we have to do.
Right.
Right? We've been saying that with the past 10 or 12 Passovers. Right? Most High willing, this is the last one. Right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. And I think I want to start at verse number 5. So it's like the brother said, it's nothing wrong with asking questions. Right? There's no such thing as a stupid question. Right? The only stupid thing about it is not asking. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has 1,000% knowledge. That's why we use the precepts to get the understanding. Right? So this is Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, he that created the heavens and stretched them out, he hath spread forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it, he that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and the spirit to them that walk therein. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee. Right? So the Lord is holding your hand to allow you to walk on that path so you can do this the right way. Right? When I first did Passover, I kept it completely wrong. Right? It was absolutely terrible looking back at it. But the Most High had mercy upon myself and my household that I was able to do it right the next year. Right? Fine-tuning, going back and reading, talking to brothers, getting all the information right, making sure we do everything righteous to a T. Right? The right bit of herbs, the right wine to have. right? The right prayers, what we should read, all that takes time to get that understanding. And give thee for a covenant of the people for the light of the Gentiles. Right, so he gave us this covenant so we can be a light unto the Gentiles, those who are without the knowledge of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Right, our people see us wearing garments and walking into these venues, or we're talking about we don't want to eat anything with leaven in it during that week at work. They start to ask questions. They start to look into it and see why that is. Right, and you want to make sure that you letting your light shine. Right, don't be at work holding a piece of bread so nobody knows that you're keeping Passover, but you throw it away when you walk away. No, let your light shine forth and tell everybody, look, no, I'm not eating any unleavened or any leavened bread this week. Right, I got my own food. You know, let your light shine so you can be a light unto the Gentiles. So they know, you know, Lord forbid we have another Passover after this, but that's what they should be doing. Right, but you got it, King.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. That's right. Right through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So let's see if there's any questions. Okay. Eliania, right? Shalom family. Shalom. I asked this question to a few people, but they didn't answer it according to the Lord or precepts. I want to know, why do brothers/sisters get decked out for Passover? King Josiah made it festive, but this is the Lord's Passover. So why do people dress up for Passover? Right. Well, I got a quick precept, unless you got something, Amos.
Con, you got it, King. I'm about to grab this precept too.
Yeah, this is I want to get Isaiah chapter 52, and I want to read verse number 1. Now, remember, first and foremost, the conditions of the first Passover, you know, we were in a spirit of fear, in the spirit of destruction, in the spirit of death, right? Because the Most High we didn't know what was happening, right? We had no idea. We heard screams in the middle of the night. You know, we putting blood on the doorpost and the lintels, and we trying to figure out, why are we doing this? And the Lord saying, eat the Passover. So we didn't have those conditions, didn't allow us to be able to keep the Passover the way that it's intended to be kept, in the name of the place that the Lord would choose, which is Jerusalem. Now, when the Israelites would be outside of Jerusalem, and even in the time of the New Testament, outside of Judea, they would travel from different parts of the known world, you know. And when you came and traveled to Jerusalem, you came on point, because you were appearing before the Lord. You were appearing before the temple. You know, you weren't showing up in sackcloth. You weren't showing up in dust and ashes, keeping the Passover, right? He wasn't showing up in garments of mourning, right? There are different types of garments that the ancient Israelites would wear. You had garments of mourning for time of mourning, and you have garments of praise, right? You have garments of praise, garments of mourning. You have garments for doing your work, right? We're a people, even today, we got your work clothes, you got your camp outfit, right? You got your feast day garment, you got your step out stuff. I mean, we even have that same spirit, because that's the spirit in the ancient world. But I want to read Isaiah 52:1, right? It reads, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. So the Lord is telling us, even in the spirit, to wake up out of this hell that we in, this confusion, right? This ignorance, and put on your beautiful garments, which parabolically is this knowledge and this truth. But it's also a physical work to put on beautiful garments. To the Most High is really telling us to have some honor and dignity in that verse right there, and some self-esteem, and to know your position. Get up out the dust, put on your garment, arise and sit on your throne, and take your rightful place as a prince of power, right? So when you come back to the knowledge of the Most High, that's what you're doing. You're taking your position of dignity and honor, and that's matched by how you carry yourself, right? Like I tell you in Sirach 19:29, a man shall be known by his look, and one that hath understanding when thou meetest him. A man's attire, excessive laughter, and gait show what he is. So you walking in your garment, walking uprightly with that confidence and that dignity shows that you have understanding about who you are, who your God is, and what your customs are. Right? I got one more. Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down. So get up off the ground, stand up, and sit on your throne. O Jerusalem, loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. But you got it, King.
Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Or I'll read it. Exodus chapter 12 and 31. Right? Because when we left out of Egypt, we left in great substance.
Right.
Right? We spoiled the Egyptians. We left out with raiments, with gold and silver. Right? How we came into Egypt is not how we left out. We left out in beautiful raiment. We had beautiful raiment with us. Right? And this is the Lord's Passover. Right? You don't come to a feast in anything. Right? That's I believe it's Matthew the 22nd chapter. I believe it is. Let me check. Matthew 22, and I believe it's the 10th verse, somewhere around there. Right? This is Matthew. Notice it's talking about a wedding feast. It's the same thing. A feast is a feast. Right? You don't show up to a feast in raggedy garments. Right? Especially the Lord's Passover. This is Matthew chapter 22. Where I want to start at. I'm going to start at verse number 9. Right? And it said, go thee therefore into the highways, and as many as ye find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. Right? And when the king came in to see the guests, so Yahushua, the spirit is going to be within the Passover. Right? You don't want to have on spiritually a raggedy garment. And physically, you want to present yourself beautiful before the king. Right? Because we're dealing with the body of Yahushua. He saw there was a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he saith unto him, friend, how comest thou hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. So how are you going to come to a feast and not have the proper attire? You know, we're not saying that you got to be decked out with gold and right, everybody in awe when they see you, but you want to present yourself in a beautiful raiment. Right? Present yourself because you're in front of the Lord. You're dealing with the Lord's body. Right? But this is Exodus chapter 12. I'm going to go to verse number 33. And the Egyptians were urging upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we all be dead men. And the people took their dough, which was leaven, their netting trough, being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. So when we left out with decked out garments, with silver, right, with gold, right? We didn't leave out looking trashy and bummy as a people. We left out with great substance. Imagine how much gold we had that our forefathers was able to make a golden calf in the wilderness. That's a lot of gold, right? That's not 2 earrings and a ring, right? We left out with so much favor. How much more should we approach the Lord's Passover in this day and age? Right? Presentable, beautiful, well trimmed, right? Not looking like you just woke up from a 24-year nap. Right, but you got it, King.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And this was the latter part of the question. I know we walked out of Egypt with treasures, but do we really think that our people were getting their hair and nails done, wanting to wear best garments? When does it become vain? Well, it becomes vain. Here's something. It becomes vain when you put your physical appearance before your spiritual appearance. That's when it becomes vain, right? When you say, you know what? I'm not going to examine. It's like you put on this beautiful garment, but you still got all this leaven in your actual house, right? And you still got all this hatred that you may have towards a brother, or you still may be holding on to a grudge, or you still may be secretly smoking weed, but you have the most immaculate garment on. That's when it becomes vain, right? But there's nothing wrong with, like brothers are saying, putting on beautiful garments, appearing before the Lord, You know, you're appearing before Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Right? This isn't, and people, when Jake was in the world, you went 1,000% in the world, man. For so-called Easter Sunday, you put on, they call it Sunday's best for a reason, because of how Jake back in the day would go through great lengths to, your grandmother has the biggest hat on and white gloves, and you got this tuxedo on, your face all shined up like a butterball, and all your siblings and cousins there, and that's your Sunday's best. Crisp so-called Thanksgiving at auntie whoever house, or you went above and beyond to ensure that you showed up to the so-called white man's holiday dressed up. You know, how much more Yahweh Hashem Yahushua when you appear in your ancient beautiful garments, right? And your ancient customs and your ancient mitris, and you're supposed to have a staff in your hand. You're supposed to have a girdle on. You can't have a girdle on a t-shirt. Your loin's supposed to be girded. So that means you would have to have a garment on in order to have your loins girded, right? You would have to have an ancient garment on to actually keep the Passover according to the ordinances thereof anyway, right? That's just the ordinances of the Passover, right? But I just want to read one quick precept, then you got it, King. This just one quick precept. This Isaiah 61 and verse 3. It reads, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, and oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise. It says the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. So instead of mourning and depression and sadness, the Lord gives us joy, right? He gives us the oil of joy, the garment of praise. The Most High is into Israel beautifying themselves. You know, when you read Ezekiel, the 16th chapter, there's an entire chapter about how the Most High took us out of captivity and built us up. And the entire parable is based off of garments being decked out with gems, gold, you know, all types of beautiful clothes. That's how the Most High get down, you know. Just want to make that point. Let's see. Next question through the Spirit. From that roof be real. Does the full moon represent the light when Israel left Egypt? Break it down. Or is the full moon the first of the month? The water. Okay, does the full moon represent the light or Yahushua when Israel left Egypt? Break it down. Or is the full moon the first of the month, the water? You want to get in there, King, or?
I'm not sure what they're asking. Are they referring to Psalms 82?
I believe since we left Passover on the 15th day on the full moon, they're saying is that full moon represent Yahushua. But they're also saying, or is the full moon the first of the month? Well, it's really neither.
Right?
It's really neither. It's not a this or that, like it has to be one or the other for the question's sake, but it's more so no for both, right? The full moon is just the full moon. It's just the day that we left Egypt. Now the full moon, let me get a precept real quick in Numbers 33, just to show that we left on the full moon. Right? This is Numbers chapter 33 and verse number 3. Right? Numbers 33 and 3. And they departed from Ramesses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with an high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. So the 15th day of every month is a full moon, right? It starts off with a new moon, what men are calling a dark moon, but it's a new moon. And then it builds up to a waxing crescent or a crescent, and then a waxing crescent, then a half moon, a waxing gibbous, then it goes to a full moon, then a waning gibbous, half moon, waning crescent, all the way back to a new moon. So we left on a full moon because we left with a what the Lord said, with a high hand and a sight of all the Egyptians. So it's not the moon representing Yahushua. It was like we leaving out in style and everybody's going to see it. In the ancient world, when it was a full moon, even kind of where, where I'm at, where brothers live at, when it's a full moon and it's no lights around, it's bright outside. When you out in the woods or you out somewhere like that, you don't need no street lights. That full moon gets bright. So you got to think about it. When we left Egypt, they had no street lights or want no night vision to see us leave. In the eyes of the Most High, the best way for us to be walking out in style for everybody to see us was for us to leave on the full moon, because that's when there's the most brightness on the earth. So the scriptures speak about, like Amos went into, us spoiling the Egyptians and leaving out with all types of gems and gold and rubies. Everybody got to see that. And it showcased the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Right? But you got it, King.
God, I believe I said Psalms 82. I meant Psalms 81. Okay. Right. Can we get that in the blue letter?
Yes,
so we know the new moon doesn't start when the moon is at its fullest capacity. Right? That's the middle of the month. That'll be anywhere between the 13th going into, or the 14th going into the 16th, anywhere between those few days. Right? So this Psalms chapter 81, I'm going to start at 1 and read to 3. Where it says, to the chief musician upon Gideon, right? Songs of Asaph, sing aloud unto Yahweh our strength, make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel and a pleasant heart with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. Right? Can we bring that down and go into solemn feast day?
Okay. Hold on, let me zoom out so like yeah. So you want
what time appointed?
Yeah, time appointed.
God.
What the hell? Oh, there it is. So bear with me. I clicked it twice. Time appointed. All right, here it is. Full moon.
Right. So the full moon is the time appointed, which is going into the Passover. Right, when we left out of like the brother was going into Egypt. Right, so that time appointed, everybody was able to see. All the inhabitants of Egypt can see the Israelites leaving out, getting our portion, how the Lord destroyed our enemies before our eyes. Right, so that time appointed just represents the middle of the month, which is going into the time of Passover. No, the full moon isn't the first of the month. So the full moon is the middle of the month. Right, it's always the middle of the month, while the dark moon is the beginning of the month. Right, Lord willing, that answered the question.
And I got this pulled up. I typed in, how much did the full moon help see in the ancient world? It says, now this is just AR overview, but it says, in the ancient world, the full moon was a vital source of nighttime light, allowing people to extend work, travel, and socialize safely in the night. Right? You got to think about it. We leaving out, it's millions of us rolling out, men, women, and children. So ideally for us in the flesh, the full moon is the best. So everybody can see where they're going. We left out harnessed. We had oxen and cattle, and we had all types of stuff going on. So we needed to see, where exactly we were going as well. So it says, without artificial lighting, the brightest phase of the lunar cycle, which is the full moon, was critical for navigation, agriculture, and coordinating ceremonies. People were more active at night during the full moon, often delaying sleep to work or participate in activities. Right? A little more, it says, the enhanced visibility helped travelers move safely across landscapes, mitigating the hazards of total darkness. Ancient cultures used the moon's phases to mark passing of the seasons and manage agricultural tasks such as planting and harvesting. Right? So, and I wanted to go back and I read it before, but there's a key word in Numbers 33. I'm gonna go back and just read this real quick again. Numbers 33:3. And they departed from Ramesses in the first month, and the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow, after the morrow, meaning we were leaving, going into the morning time, right? That's the morrow because we left after midnight. After the Passover, the children of Israel went out within high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. And that was part of the Most High showing his power, right? The Most High wanted to show his strength and his power. He wanted everybody to see it, right? So that's why, like the brother was saying, it was on a full moon.
God, another quick point. I went to Chat GBT, right? It says the Bible doesn't directly state the astronomical phase of the moon in the night of the first Passover, but it's pretty clear from how the works of the Hebrew calendar works. Passover is commanded to be kept on the 14th day of the first month, Nisan or Abib, right? The Hebrew calendar is lunar, meaning each month begins with the new moon when the first sliver becomes visible, right? By the 14th of the lunar month, the moon has progressed to a full phase, right? So there's no way to get around Passover coming on a full moon.
Yeah, you got somebody in the comment board losing their mind, saying that the full moon, it says stop calling it the full moon, it's the new moon. Well, the Bible calls it the full moon, right? You have two phases mentioned in the Bible. A full moon is mentioned, and there's another phase in the Bible mentioned, the new moon. If the full moon was the new moon, then you would never have the word full moon in the Bible. It would always just be called the new moon, right? So we have to stop that. We have to we have to grow. Okay. All right, we're getting better, man. I don't want to getting better through the spirit. Right? All right, let's move on. Right? It used to get emotional, man. I used to get emotional and you want to get mad at people and stuff, but that's all right, man. Right? Let's move on. Okay, Ezra, the truth costed me all my friends and all my family. It's crazy. It makes no sense and all the sense in the world at the same time. Anyways, how do I keep the Passover alone?
God, the same way you would do it with the congregation.
Right.
Right? You will make sure that the lamb is cooked the right way. You remove all the leaven. You make unleavened bread, have the bitter herbs, or have the wine, have a staff in hand, your loins girded, and eat it in haste. Right? Though you may not have a congregation, the ordinance of the Passover is still kept the same way, whether you be by yourself or be amongst hundreds.
Yeah, I was thinking, like you said, hopefully this the last Passover. Hopefully it is, man, because it ain't looking too good. I was talking about that earlier, man. Like, it's gonna get back to like we had during the lockdown. Brothers kept it in their households. You kept it, with your family or maybe a brother or two, but it's going to get back to that, man. It's going to get back to that. All hell might be breaking loose. You might not even know what time it is, right? What day of the month it is. I just want to make that point just to kind of put things into perspective. What keeping the Passover alone or not having a lot of people around you, and it's no excuse to keep the Passover. It's like it's no excuse to not keep the Passover when you are alone, right? Because I know a lot of brothers will use that. They feel as though that's a reasonable excuse not to partake in the Lord's feast day because they're alone, right? Now, obviously, if you have the means to congregate and gather with people of the like mind, then do so, right? It's a holy convocation, but it's never a reason for you not to keep the Passover, just because you're by yourself, right? That's never, it's never been acceptable. There's no precept, on that through the Spirit. But I want to get this one quick precept. This Philippians. I'm gonna just pull it up. We even pull it up on the screen. Let me pull it up on the screen. Philippians 2:12. Right. This Philippians chapter 2 and verse number 12. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Right? So we got to work out our own salvation, right? With fear and trembling. Okay. These are good questions. So all praises to Yahweh Shah. Good questions. Good questions for the Passover. Okay, Carmel 7. Does it have to be only food or ingredients that has leavening agents, or can it be also things like shampoo or makeup products that may contain leavening agents? Do you have to remove that? I'll say first and foremost, you want to start with all of your food and ingredients, because you're going to have, cleaning products and things in your house that, that may have those things in it, but you want to start, your main priority should be food or the ingredients like seasonings and stuff that have that in it, right? Because seasonings may have that, food in your pantry, freezer, refrigerator, it may have that. So you definitely want to go through your house and not have leaven in that. Now, if you got, I know toothpaste is mainly things that you consume, but if you got like toothpaste or other stuff in your house that got leaven in it and you getting rid of that, by all means, you can always go above and beyond and take that next step. But you definitely want to start with all of your food and your ingredients that are consumable first and foremost, because it's about the consumption of the leaven, right? But also, if that's something, I know brothers do that, right? They get all of that, and there's no sin in that, But you got Amos. I got precept I want to get after you.
Let's go to 1 Corinthians 5 and verse number 7. Right. So the spiritual aspect of having unleavened bread is to remove the impurities from out of your system. Right. A lot of these things that we use, for example, baking soda to clean up or put in your refrigerator, those are leavening agents, so it causes something to rise. So the ordinances was so we made sure we remembered that we left out of Egypt in haste, right? And not carrying that leaven on as we was going into the promised land, right? So that's why it's important to solely, first and foremost, like the brother said, remove anything that you can use to consume with food, right? But it might be kind of difficult. You may have baking soda or baking powder that you use to clean the carpet and vacuum with inside your vacuum. A lot of these leavening agents, they had these funny names that we can't even pronounce, right? It may be in your deodorant, so mainly it's about making sure you get the leavening agents that are consumed out of your house, right? But this is 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. Purge therefore, so like you purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us, right? So the old leaven goes into consuming, really, right? Consuming in your spirit, that stuff. So I would say, speaking as a man and through the wisdom that the precepts have given us, that's 95% talking about the food in your refrigerator and your cabinets. But you got it, King.
Con, and I want to get this in Exodus the 13th chapter, right? This Exodus chapter 13 and verse 6. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and in the seventh day shall be a feast to the Lord, right? So every day during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you have to eat unleavened bread. Make sure you get rid of that leaven, but also make sure you're eating unleavened bread. And you can get fancy with your unleavened bread meals. Israel go crazy, man. They could do pastries and pizzas and all types of stuff, right? So definitely, get creative and please the Most High and really get into this when it comes to eating unleavened bread for 7 days. If you don't eat unleavened bread in any one of the feast of unleavened bread days, then that would be a sin and that would be wickedness. All right, you have to eat unleavened bread every day during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, not just the Passover, right? And you keep it for 7 days because 7 is a number of completion and perfection. To Amos' point, showing that you should always have leaven out of your spirit, right? Verse 7 in Exodus 13. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee. Neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters, right? All quarters meaning your entire house, right? 100% of your house, your living quarters. They call it living quarters. No leavened bread and leaven seen with thee. All right. So again, and we put a list out. I believe we put it on a Instagram, maybe Facebook, with all of the words, like Amo said, all of those different sodium bicarbonate and all these different words that you want to look out for, and use that as as a foundation to removing leaven from your house, man, because everything ain't just going to say yeast on it, right? Yeast or leaven. These devils are extremely crafty.
God, and also, you got to get into this thing. Don't just buy that fake Jewish bread, that hard square cracker, and say you eating unleavened bread. What's it called?
I think it's matzah.
Yeah, matzah bread.
Oh man,
don't do that. Get into it. Watch a YouTube video on how to make unleavened bread. Put some salt in there, right? This is our high holy day. We shouldn't keep it like a so-called white man. Just got cracker crumbs everywhere. You don't know what they're truly putting in there. They can tell you anything. Right? Look at that.
Yehuda.
Yehuda matzos. Man, you think our forefathers and foremothers made bread looking like this? Of course not. They look like a piece of paper.
Right.
Right. Look at this, man. Yeah, get into this thing. This is like I said, this is our high holy day. Right? Have some pride, have some passion for the Lord's feast day.
Yeah, man. Yep. All right. Yolanda Caesar. Unfortunately, I'm staying with my godmother, Slakia, because I need to help her. She is not doing well at this time. She's not a believer. Can I remove leaven out of her house? First, sorry to hear that, sister, but if you have the consent to move that out the house, then yes, right? A lot of brothers and sisters are in similar situations, whether they are not of age or they live in somebody else's house, or some people got roommates with people in the world, and they got all types of leftover pizza and stuff in their house, and you can only control what you possess, right? So with that being said, you can't go in somebody else's house without their consent and start removing stuff out of their house, because that would be theft, right? They could say you stole that from me. You can become chargeable, right? And not so blameless. And likewise, if you got roommates, just get rid of your stuff, man. If you live with your parents, you let them know, hey, this is the Passover. You got to come up direct. Don't be walking in the middle of the night with a trash bag and your folks sleep. You 15 years old and all they hear is, shuffling and stuff going on, and you tying this big Ziploc bag and they come down. The Lord said, let all things be done decently and in order. Right? But you got it, King.
Con. Yeah, you got to use wisdom.
Yeah.
And pray that the Most High has mercy upon you. But this is Sirach chapter 8 and verse number 10. It says, kindle not the coals of a sinner, lest I'll be burnt with the flame of his fire. Right? Like you said, she's not really a believer. So if you come in and start removing stuff and she don't understand what's going on, right? All hell could break loose. And you could be sitting there looking for somewhere else to stay at. Right? Verse number 11, rise not up in anger at the presence of an injurious person, least he why and late to entrap thee in our words. Right. And I'm not trying to say, your godmother may be trying to do something to ensnare you or anything like that. But if you do something out of order and take it upon yourself without, like the brother said, consent, you might get trapped up and might throw words in your face, and now you in a cold and you hate God, and you know how our people do when they don't understand certain things.
Yeah. And if you're the only one, like you said, you stand with her because you need to help her, then that should be the main focus, and being that light is as far as you can go, talking to her about it and speaking about it. And the Lord said, and I'm gonna get this in First Peter, the first chapter. It's applicable to wives and husbands, but it applies to letting your light shine anyway. But this First Peter 3:1, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. So that's a precept that shows how women can bring their husbands into the knowledge of the Most High, even without going deep into the precepts and going through prophecy and showing them what it means to be an Israelite. A lot of times, like the Lord said, it could be your conversation, right? It could be your behavior, right? And you submitting yourself to the will of the Most High and allowing that light to shine could be enough for your godmother to say, yeah, let's get rid of that. She could, at the Most High, could put that in her spirit to do that. You start talking about it, or I'm not sure what kind of conversations y'all had already. Maybe you did, and maybe she's not going to get it. Or, I don't know. But the point of the matter is, you let your light shine, and you're in a situation where you're helping her out, and that's more important than trying to get the leaven out of her house. So from Marquise or Marquise, I have a question. Since I'm not able to attend Passover with brothers, and I can't kill a lamb currently, what should I do?
Well, if you're not in the position to do it, I would go to your local supermarket, get a lamb, and do it the way the Most High commanded us to. Right? We wasn't always able to maybe slay a lamb or kill a lamb. We had to do it the best way we could. Rehearse the righteous acts. We had to rehearse the righteous acts.
Yeah. Get you a grill, man. Get you some charcoal. What you say? Some lamb, like a lamb. Get you the not the lollipop lamb. What's the big lamb? Is that like a lamb steak?
Get you the shoulder.
Yeah. Get
or
that.
or a loin.
Don't get any ground lamb. Don't get the lolly. If you got to get, if all they got is that lollipop lamb, that's what they got. But like Amos said, man, get the good piece of the lamb. Get you a grill going. Get you a little bit of salt, some kosher salt. Get you some unleavened bread. All you need for unleavened bread is flour, water, salt, honey. Maybe if you want to put some cinnamon in there or whatever, but really that's all you need. Am I missing something? That's it.
Bitter herbs.
Yeah. Then get your bitter herbs.
God.
And don't do iceberg lettuce or leafy spinach or collard greens for your what's that other stuff, man? Jake.
Kale.
Yeah, kale. Yeah, Jake and Eve be eating the kale now, man. Right? Don't do the kale for the Passover. Get you some ginger root, some lemongrass, some horseradish. Really get down with that bitter herbs, man. Don't run away from the bitter herbs. Somebody, oh, it's hot, my nose burned. It's supposed to burn. That's one of the best parts about the Passover, man. When it's the last bit of herbs left, and brothers just, they do their thing and finish them bitter herbs.
God, it's to remember the affliction.
Right.
It's so we can remember the affliction. Iceberg lettuce, there's no affliction. Right? It's just moist and crunchy.
Yeah.
Right? There's no affliction at all. right? You want to make sure that you're remembering the affliction our forefathers had to go through those 400 plus years in Egypt, right? That bondage wasn't simple. That bondage wasn't sweet. They don't use that euphemism, sweating like a Hebrew slave or working like a Hebrew slave for nothing, right? They was working the hell out of us.
Right. That's right. That's right. Okay, next question. Ann Williams. Why do you eat lamb meat when Yahweh Shai is the holy sacrificial lamb of the Passover? Well, we can't eat Yahweh Shai. Okay. So that's not an alternative. And you eat lamb meat because you're commanded to eat lamb. Okay, you're commanded to eat lamb for the Passover. Okay, let's go back and let's read that. Okay, we understand that Yahweh Shah is the holy sacrificial lamb, right? But you still have to eat actual lamb. Okay, this is 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. Right, let's pull it up on the screen. Right, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and 7. Right, this is why you eat lamb. Right, it reads, "Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump. For even Hamashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us." So the Passover is a actual sacrifice. Yes, Yahweh Shai is our Passover. He's our lamb that was sacrificed to reconcile us back to the Most High. But the Passover within itself is the lamb, right? And you have to eat the lamb. Yahweh Shai ate lamb on the Passover. You know, Peter and John and James, they all ate lamb for the Passover, right? So, you know, just because Yahweh Shah is the holy sacrificial lamb, it doesn't disannul the law that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah gave in Exodus, the 12th chapter, right? I'm going to read that too. This Exodus chapter 12 and verse number 8. "And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread and bitter herbs, they shall eat it." So this, you have to eat the flesh of that Passover, roast with fire, right? So that's the lamb. Okay, that's the lamb. Right? But you got it, King.
God, that goes in 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter. How it says, I'm gonna just get it right. How it says that we all, this is after going through all that we went through in the land of Egypt, right? We all did eat of the same spiritual meat, right? This 1 Corinthians 10. I'm gonna start at verse number 2 or 1. "Moreover, brethren, I would not that you would be ignorant how that our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat." Right? The spiritual meat is the understanding, the wisdom, everything that came along with the Most High's mercy upon us, but it's also going into the body of Yahushua, right? It's talking about the body of Yahushua, right? Because he gave the ordinances and why you need to eat this of this bread and drink of this wine, right? It's not just for a good time. Shalom, King.
Shalom, Kings.
Right, so it's not just for a good time. That spiritual meat represents Yahushua's body. Like the brother said, we can't eat of Yahushua right now, but we do this in remembrance of him.
Come. And, you know, Yahweh. Oh, go ahead. Right, Shalom, King.
Shalom, Kings. Y'all got it.
Oh no, I was gonna get this quick precept, right? In Matthew. Actually, we'll do Luke 22 instead, right? This is Luke chapter 22 and verse number 17. It reads, "And he took the cup." I'm gonna start at 15. "And he said unto them, With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer." So the Passover consists, again, like we read in the law, of lamb, unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and the wine. So we see here that Yahweh Shai, with him knowing that he was the sacrificial lamb, with the apostles, he didn't say, "Okay, nobody's eating lamb because here, I'm right here in front of you and I'm going to be the sacrifice for you." No, he said, "I want to eat this with you before I suffer. For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took the cup and gave thanks and said, take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come. Right? So he's telling them that in the kingdom, he's going to have that great feast of victory and, praise with the apostles, but it's still showing that Yahushua is instructing them to keep the law, but to understand, even though that he represents the bread and the lamb and the wine represents his blood, he's still telling them to keep the ordinances of the Passover, right? So the additional knowledge, for lack of better terms, of Yahushua being a sacrificial lamb is not a reason for you not to eat the actual lamb of the Passover. That's just more knowledge and understanding of what the Passover is actually about, right? As knowledge increases. But you want to get in there, Raya? You want to move on?
No, we can move on.
All right, let's move on. All praise to the Most High.
So like, yeah, another somebody put in the comments, what's a great alternative meat if you are a vegetarian or a pescatarian, right? Now, there's no alternatives, right? We have to eat the lamb. It has to be lamb meat, right? Somebody said lamb tacos too. No lamb tacos, right? Unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and lamb. Those are 3 simple portions of the meal, right? Don't add your own flavor into it.
Yeah, don't get excited. Don't get excited and you start, like your brother said, lamb tacos. And again, we say, the law also say for the Passover, we got to mention that you can't let nothing of it remain of the lamb until the morning, right? So you have to burn it with fire. So whatever you don't eat of that lamb, keep that grill going, keep that fire burning, or get that fire burning again, and you have to burn that lamb. You can't say, well, I don't feel like burning. I'm tired. It's 1 a.m. I'm gonna put it in a Tupperware, right? And I'm gonna take it, like brother say every year, take it to lunch tomorrow, man. So you can heat it up in the microwave and people can smell it and start asking questions, and you start getting off on that, man. That no, right? You gotta burn that, man. Ain't no lamb leftovers, like the brother said. Ain't no lamb tacos, lamb omelets. So we know.
No,
Oh, you said what?
I'm going to say during the feast of unleavened bread, that's fine. You can have,
Right.
lamb tacos and stuff like that, but not for the Passover.
Yeah, and to another point, don't be putting a million seasons and all it, defiling the body of the Lord. You want to eat it as it is written. You don't want to be putting dressing and you taking all of these different flavors. This is real dry. You know what this needs? Then you start dumping all type of things on, and you defile the Passover. So that's something to consider also.
Yeah, Jake been watching that tenderism. You've been watching Unk, and it's tenderism, man. You're gonna get yourself. He gonna get a lot of you. You're gonna get some brothers jammed up, man. You're gonna hold that lamb up. That lamb gonna fall off the bone. The bone gonna break, and you're gonna be all messed up. And don't break the bone, right? Don't break the bone for the Passover too.
Or eat of the fat. Don't eat any fat.
Right. Okay, next question. The house we are to clean is our body / temple or our home. All right, brothers got it.
You can get in there, right, if you want to.
I'll jump in there. So you got to clean both. You got to get the leaven out of your physical house, and you got to get the leaven, out of your spiritual tabernacle, right? I want to get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of, let's go to Ephesians chapter 5. All right, let's go to the mighty book of Ephesians chapter 5. This is Ephesians chapter 5, and I'm going to start at verse number 2. It says, and walk in love as Yahushua also have loved us and have given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God. So the Lord wasn't defiled when he gave himself up for an offering. He was perfect and pure. So the same way as you present yourself before the Heavenly Father and you partake of this offering, you partake of this meal, you can't be defiled. It says for a sweet smelling savor. So your works and the things you do, your prayers, your mindset, your fasting, your love, you applying the precepts, as it says in Sirach chapter 35, all the way down, that these things are offerings enough by keeping the commandments. You know, you're offering a grain offering, you're offering a free will, all of these things that you do by applying the precepts and cleansing yourself before the Heavenly Father is giving offerings. So, you know, don't think that you have to physically, you know, do carnal things under the Levitical priesthood. You keeping the laws in itself are bringing up a sweet savor. It says, but fornication and all uncleanliness and covetousness, let it be. So like you let it not be once named among you. So you have to purge and remove all that leaven. It says, as it becometh saints, neither filthiness nor foolish talking. So I mean, just idle words. You know, a lot of foolish talking can defile you. You're sitting up at work talking about the game. Then, you know, my wife last night. Then it get lewd out of nowhere. Then, you know, it's segue into some defilement. And now you're getting defiled. You're entertaining it. You're adding your 2 cents. You're getting defiled. You don't want to have foolish talking, man. Right? You want to be in a stern spirit, in a mentality of seriousness and sternness as we come before the Lord. It says, nor jesting. You're joking a lot. You know, talking about brothers. It says, which are not convenient, but rather give thanks. For this ye know that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater have any inheritance in the kingdom of Yahushua and of God. Let no man deceive you, right, with vain words. For because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. So all of these things are something you got to do, you know, by purging yourself. And purging yourself is extremely important. If I can get one more in 1 Corinthians 5 and 11. That's extremely important. Because if you don't purge out your spirit, then the Lord could judge the whole church. You know, you don't want to eat the Passover with somebody that's defiled. So it's important that we all remove leaven, that we all could be, you know, whole in the eyes of the Lord. It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 11. But no, I have written unto you not to keep company if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, right? He's secretly defiling his body and temple of the Lord by doing strange things in the dark. And covetous, right? He's loving the world and loving the things thereof, and an idolater, and a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such an one know not to eat. So it's very important to remove those things because the Lord told you not to eat amongst those men. It says, for what have I to do to judge them also that are without? Do not ye judge them that are within. So if you're sitting in the back of the car eating Cheetos and, you know, the passenger and the driver robbed the bank and you sitting back, you're going to get locked up too. You can't say I didn't do anything. All I did was I was eating Cheetos. I was relaxed. I took a nap. No, you're going to get jammed up too. They're going to lock you up. So you can't be in the midst of evilness, wickedness, and defile yourself and think that the Heavenly Father is not going to judge you too, man. You within. It says, but them that are without God judgeth, therefore put away from amongst yourselves that wicked person. Why? Because a little leaven leaveneth up the whole lump. So this is, you know, what the Apostle Paul is talking about, how one person can defile the whole church. That's that little leaven. So you got to get rid of that wicked person. Now, if you're that wicked person, you got to examine yourself, man. Right? And everybody thinks they're right and clean in their own eyes. You can't think that you're right and clean in your own eyes. Okay, I fasted this week, I read this week, but there are 1,000 other things you may not even be thinking about that defiles you. Your mindset, what goes across it. You're not repenting for things you've done. There's 1,000 things we ought to always examine, you know, leading before the Lord. But to answer the question, both, I'll let a brother get in there.
No, you went into that. All right, all praise to the Most High. All praises. All right, next question. From Kanal ZRO. Can you clarify why it seems like some people treat Passover and unleavened bread as the same, and some treat it as different holidays? Can you explain the 14th and 15th day? Yeah, this is something that I've seen, and I still don't understand why brothers break off the Passover from the Feast of Unleavened Bread, when the Passover is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Again, Passover is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You know, let me get this back in Numbers, right? We got to go back to this, right? I want to read this real quick. This is, I mean, we've read it already, but I'm gonna just start at 2. Numbers 33 and 2. And Moses wrote their going out. It's like, and Moses wrote their goings out according to their journeys by the commandment of the Lord. And these are their journeys and their goings out. So there's a recap of the first city we left to the time that, you know, we went up to the Red Sea, so forth and so on. And they departed Ramesses on the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. So we left on the 15th day of the first month. You have brothers saying, well, the Passover is on the 14th day, and then the Feast of Unleavened Bread is on the 15th day. If that line of logic holds true, Numbers 33 is saying that we didn't leave Passover. I mean, we didn't leave Egypt until the day after Passover, which would be madness, knowing that we left Egypt on the day of the Passover. So when we slaughtered the lamb on the 14th day at even, that was the 15th day. Concurrently, that was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover. And like we said earlier, when it says on the morrow after the Passover, that's saying going into the sun rising after we ate the meal. Because remember, we were up all night, right? We were up all night until going all the way up to the morning time, right? So the morrow after the Passover, meaning as the sun was going up past midnight, we were already out, and we left with a high hand after we spoiled the Egyptians. And I want to get one more in Exodus. All right, let me get this real quick. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. This Exodus chapter 13, and actually I want chapter 12. Right, I want to go back to chapter 12. That's the spirit. I was just reading this earlier. This Exodus 12 and 16. I'm gonna start at 15. It reads 7 days. Let's start at 14. And this day's the Passover. Let me start at 13. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. He's talking about the day of the Passover, where we put blood on the doorposts and the lintels of the house. So when the death angel came by, if your house was covered with the blood of the lamb, then a death angel would pass over your house, then go to the next house, right? Reading on. And this day, that's the Passover, shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it by an ordinance. It's lucky forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation. That's your Passover. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done unto you. Here's the point. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this self same day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. So it's telling you, you observe the feast of unleavened bread because in that same day is the day that we left Egypt. So for anybody teaching that, okay, the Passover is on the 14th day, and then on the 15th day it's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then you would also be teaching that we didn't leave Egypt on the Passover. right? That's what you were by default. You're teaching. We didn't leave Egypt on the Passover. We left on the next day, which was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But this is saying that the Passover and the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread are the exact same things. That's the day that we left Egypt, right? So, and then the next verse doubles down. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even. So the 14th day at even is the 15th day. Ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 1 and 20th day of the month at even. So you can't get around it, right? You can't get around it. You're eating unleavened bread for 7 days, and it starts on the 14th day of the month at even. So,
Luke 22:1, Bobby Shaw. It's clear cut right there. Now the feast of unleavened, Luke 22:1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. Right? It's just the beginning of it. So, it's the beginning, like the brother said. Holy convocation in the first and then the last day. Right? The Passover is just the holiest, how holy day we have. So
So most High willing for Canal ZRO, that's the 14th. And really just one more point on the 14th day. The only significance, there's two major significant points to the 14th day. Is first, you're supposed to take the lamb on the 10th day, right? And you raise it up until the 14th day. So that 14th, between the 10th and the 14th are the parameters of raising up that lamb. Once it's on that 14th day, that's your deadline, because you're about to slaughter the lamb at even on the 5th, which is the 15th day. So the only importance of the 14th day is knowing that that's your benchmark, or it's like your cutoff time of raising that male lamb of the first year up. You're raising them up for those 4 days or so. And on that 5th day, which is going to be the 15th day, 5 days after the 10th, that's when you slaughter it. So there's nothing significant about the 14th day other than that. All of the glory, for lack of better terms, is on the 15th day. So, right. So I really don't know. I don't know how that has become a thing, right? People separating the 14th and I do know, right? It's for the lunar, it's for the lunar Sabbath, because you have to kind of make that work if you follow a lunar, if you say that the Sabbath is based off of the moon, right? You have to try to kind of, start adding to the word just to make it work. And it doesn't work, right? So, next question. HBK Lit, Shalom King. How do you make unleavened bread? Let's skip a question. Oh, yeah, that was the next question. Yeah, unless the brother want to get in there, we kind of went into it, King.
Yeah, I think a brother did a cold cut on it, if I'm not mistaken, on the Unleash, or the cold cut. What we call it? A new name for it.
It's Unleashed. The Chicago brothers.
Yeah, the Unleash. Yeah, I think the brother Tazama, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that was on the IG, or I believe I saw something like that a while ago. I think brothers went step by step, which is mighty in the spirit for brothers just coming in, and brothers that want to touch up on that. Most High willing, man, brothers could check that out. If not, there you go, right there. How to make unleavened bread, WFI edition. See that? So, brothers are going in depth. Brother, want to do is a little different. That's up to brothers' discretion, but at least you got a foundation you can start at. Brothers getting in there.
Come. Yep, just get you some, like we said, some flour. We prefer the King Arthur flour. Now you can get, if you got something, do your thing, but that's some good flour, some water, oil, olive oil. Don't do the avocado oil, or you want to do the what's that other oil, Jake? Grapeseed oil, right? Olive oil, flour, water, and that's it. Some honey. Right? If you want to, like brother said, you want to throw some cinnamon in there, or you want Yeah, salt too, Salaki, some salt, you know. So
Salaki, it was a controversial topic the past 2 years about adding eggs to your unleavened bread, right? An egg isn't necessarily a leavening agent, but it does make the bread rise. So you don't want to add eggs to your unleavened bread mix, right?
wow.
Water, flour, salt, roll it up, you know,
Yeah,
get like the brother said, some cinnamon,
put it in there.
put it in there. Right? You can fry it, you can
Yeah,
bake it, you know, really get into it.
yeah, yeah. And two, if I was brothers and or sisters, when it's hot, I drizzle a little honey on there and just let it coat. You don't want to put the honey on while it's cold, man.
Yeah,
Let
come. We
that
got
get a nice little
Salaki.
coat. Salaki, go ahead, King.
No, you got it, King.
I
Salaki.
was about to say, get a nice little coat over that thing.
Con. You can never go wrong with any honey,
Con.
right? But we got what is it? A little over 9 days left. So you got really 8 days outside of the Sabbath to get your unleavened bread skills up to the point where you can make it for Passover. Right. Last thing you want to do is eat some unleavened bread and it's doughy and you can barely eat it and swallow it and you choking on your unleavened bread. Lord forbid.
Yeah, you gotta have some care, man. Don't just be, and you gotta love with getting into it, man. Don't just be, making a mess like brothers are saying, man. Right? Like brother said, get into it, man. Right? Look up the. I know sisters. We got sisters in the body. They be doing unleavened bread, blueberry. This is after the Passover. This is during the feast of unleavened bread, obviously. But like blueberry pastries and
Mhm.
muffins and cakes galore and all that good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Stuff be in that aluminum foil.
You eat a whole bag of flour during the feast
Yeah,
of unleavened bread.
yeah,
Don't even realize it.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yep, yep, yep.
you do pizza, make
Yeah.
your own tacos. Flatten them out real good, put them in the fryer,
Waffles.
shape them up.
Yeah.
Waffles.
Yeah.
It's a lot of recipes.
Yeah.
And you don't got all those additives in the bread. I seen a video, not to get sidetracked, but somebody was stretching out the bread, crumbling it up. Like this stuff ain't real bread. This is
Yeah,
and the bread you used to play with when you was in preschool, the fake bread when you was playing house.
yeah.
Right? This not real bread. So now you get the opportunity to make real bread.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All praise to the Most High. Hey, that's right. Okay, from T Bird Fashion, Shalom Kings. This is my first Passover. I know to remove the leaven and the meal, but I don't understand what to do the rest of the days. Okay, so so to get the leaven out. All praise to the Most High. Or the meal, so you know about the bitter herbs, the unleavened bread, the wine, and the lamb. Now, for the rest of the days of the feast of unleavened bread, I'm gonna go back and read the precept. I read this one earlier, and then brothers got it right. This is Exodus the 13th chapter again, right? This Exodus chapter 13 and 7. I'm gonna start at 6. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and in the seventh day shall be a feast to the Lord. So after the Passover, you still have to eat unleavened bread. That's what we were talking about earlier. Brothers was talking about the waffles and the pizza and the tacos and all types of stuff you can make every day after the Passover. During the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you have to eat unleavened bread. And on the seventh day, which is the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it's a holy convocation and it's also a Sabbath. So no buying, no selling. The only work that can be done on that seventh day is work that pertains into preparing and cooking that food. But it's a holy convocation on that seventh day. Robert Brothers got it.
Come. Let's go to Psalm chapter 136 and verse number 1. That's right. And two, you have to be in mirth. Don't let your sorrows and your situations in this life overthrow you. and you're worrying about stress, you're worrying about bills, or you worrying about your job, you're worrying about Satan and his devices, you're getting overthrown. It's a day to be in mirth and gladness. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 136 and verse 1. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endureth forever. Give thanks unto God of gods, for his mercy endureth forever. Give thanks unto the Lord of lords, for his mercy endureth forever. Let's jump down to verse 15. Right? So in this chapter, you're giving thanks unto the Lord. Why are you giving thanks? Because the same way we came out of Egypt, we didn't come out of Egypt crying, man. When you read the book of Exodus, the 15th chapter, we were actually singing songs. So when Yahweh is a man of war, Yahweh is his name, we were singing that, man. So we were in joy. We weren't saying that in a sorrowful spirit, man. We were crying and we were stepping like with chains on. No, we were happy. It's saying in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 19th chapter, we leap like lambs. Lead as 19 and 9, or 19 and 7. So we were leaping like lambs. You can get that real fast, King. Wisdom of Solomon. I'm gonna come back to this precept. Wisdom of Solomon, lead 19 and 9. So if you leaping like a lamb, you're going crazy. Let's go to this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 19, verse 9. It says, "For they went a large like horses," meaning when we were getting out of Egypt, we was moving, "and leaped like lambs, praising thee, O Lord, who had delivered them." So it's not a day to be sitting around, just watching TV. It's okay to watch TV, but you want to enjoy your family. If you got a family, all praise to the Most High. If not, that's okay. Make sure that you're enjoying yourself. There are 1,000 things you can do in righteousness to enjoy yourself. I know brothers got their jams. They got their pastimes, things they like to do. Brothers may play the piano. David played the harp. Whatever you do, rejoice and be in a spirit of mirth and gladness. You can go back to Psalms. Right? This is the book of Psalms chapter 136 and verse number 15. So as they're rejoicing in the mercy of the Lord, verse 15, but overthrew Pharaoh and his host in the Red Sea, for his mercy endureth forever. To him which led his people through the wilderness, his mercy endureth forever. So this is a song of thanksgiving and joy and mirth and gladness as we give thanks to the Lord. And one of the chief things that is mentioned is destroying Pharaoh. So, oftentimes, the Passover, destruction of Nicanor, Purim, these are days we rejoice after the downfall of our enemies, where the Lord, he delivered us. So you want to be in mirth. Like the brother said, you want to make unleavened bread those days, 7 days. You want to, have it either for breakfast, lunch, whatever the case may be, but make sure that when you're eating it, you're also thinking about the precepts and being the law. The brothers got it.
Con. Just to land me back on what brothers were saying, you definitely want to make sure you're doing it for the 7 days. And also you're mindful of why you're eating it. Like the brother said, be in mirth, but keep in mind the reason why we're doing this, right? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11 and start at verse number 23. Right? A lot of people get in mirth, they may get drunk in this, not saying that it's, you sister or anybody on the comment boards, but we want to make sure that we're mindful while we're partaking in this high holy day to not do it ignorantly, to not do it with no purpose, right? This is 1 Corinthians 11 and 23, right? It says, "For I have received of the Lord that which was also delivered unto you, that the Lord the same night in which he was betrayed took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake him and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me." Right? So you want to make sure you're remembering Yahweh Shah giving up his body as that ultimate sacrifice, that we have the opportunity to eat of the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Right? Though you may be in, like the brother said, you got your jams, you dancing, you enjoying the feast day, you want to make sure that you're mindful of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And when he had given thanks, so like after the same manner, also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, "This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." Right? "For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come." right? So you want to make sure that you're always remembering the Most High in your Yahushua when you're eating of the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You're not just doing it because it's a law, but you're mindful of the ultimate sacrifice he gave, not only just for those Israelites then, but us today.
Come. That's right. That's right. All praise to the Most High. All right, let's move on to the next question. These are great questions. It's like you're from Israel, right? Lord willing, this is the last Passover. Yep. All praise to the Most High. Okay, from Kanal ZRO, can you clarify? Okay, we answered this already. Can you clarify why some people treat Passover and unleavened bread as different holidays and some don't? Is Passover night the first day of unleavened bread? We touched on that one, King. Right? Passover is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Grown folks, what am I supposed to eat during the Passover? Okay, well, you're supposed to, we touched on this too, King. You might have joined in a little later, but unleavened lamb, unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and wine. Primarily red wine. I know brothers, I don't like red wine. You want to do you some Zinfandel, some Riesling, some champagne, some what's that other one? There's one more they be drinking.
Merlot.
Merlot, right? You know, you gotta get you some kosher red wine. The best, there's different types, but you can't go wrong with either Manischewitz or Magen David, right? Those are two good wines where there's, little margin for error, but definitely want to get down with the red wine for the Passover.
Salakia. And it has to be solely grape.
Right.
No raspberry wine or mix it with dark cherry or tart cherry. Just the blood of the grape.
Right. Con. Yeah, Yahushua called it, we ran into the precept, the fruit of the vine. Right? The fruit of the vine. He said, I will not drink no more of the fruit of the vine. Okay, we answered this one from P.Y. Barchi. Are we to get rid of cleaning products? Also, we touched on that earlier. From Quanawath Ladash Salakia. Shalom, can you please tell me how I would go about my 1-year-old son keeping Passover? Do I make sure his loins are girded? I don't know what this fully means. And do I have to get him a staff, etc.? So, brothers want to get in there.
Con, I'll speak, personally, when my sons are of age, we do get them staffs. We make sure that they hold them. A 1-year-old is going to do what a 1-year-old does, but definitely make sure he has a girdle on with his loins girded, right? And if he does have teeth, try to give him little bits and pieces to make sure that he's eating of the Passover, right? But if he doesn't have, teeth, it wouldn't be wise to force a baby with no teeth to eat something. They're not going to be able to digest it and mess around and choke.
Right. Yeah, you when it comes to having his loins girded, if you want to make, like brother said, you can make your 1-year-old a garment. My son was one. He had his garment on, man. He had a garment. He had his girdle. We made sure that. Now, was he able to hold a staff by himself? No, but he sat with brothers. And he kind of held on to his staff a little bit, and we made sure that, like the brother said, you could put some wine on his gums, or give him a little piece of the lamb and a little piece of the bitter herbs and little piece of the unleavened bread, and you want to make sure that he getting into this thing as much, like Amos said, as much as his physical body will allow him to, without you he don't have to drink a full cup of wine, right? And then your baby, all hell breaking loose, man. Baby pulling precepts. He had a glass of wine, people knocking at the door, you're getting conversations in, you're telling them why you got to drink the wine. The brother said that you can't put that on us. Right, give him that little bit of give him that little bit of wine, man. Get you, you'll be all right. All praise to the Most High.
Yeah, and two, if you don't have the means of a sewing machine or have somebody to do it, you can always use things like a meat tree, or just make sure you tie it up. There's no excuses. A lot of brothers, well, I don't have a girdle. I never had one made. It doesn't say you have to go to damn seamstress and have it sewed up a certain way, and it has to have all these different stripes on it. Just make sure you're keeping the law. A lot of brothers don't have the money and means, to do those things. So just make sure you keeping the law as best of your ability.
Yeah, and I wanted to share this screen. And also, too, man, your loins girded is also, it's physical, but it's also spiritual. It represents you being ready, right? To always follow the Lord. Right. Having your feet, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand. Those are physical works that represent a vigilant mindset. Right? That's all it is. It's physical things that the Most High allows us to do, to understand that we have to be vigilant and always be observant and always watch. Passover is a night of watching, but that's the spiritual side of it as well. So although the men, like brother said, may not physically be able to gird their loins, and this is what girding your loins is. I want to show this. This is the physical act of girding your loins. Right. This is how men in the ancient world girded their loins for battle. Right. Because they would wear, like a tunic in their garment, and then they would have their girdle, and they would gird their loins to be able to fight, so they weren't tripping stuff over their garment when they went to war, or they would do hard laborious work. Right. And they always had girdles on. So that's like an ancient way that men did with their garments, because this is how their garments would normally look. But when it was time for war, you couldn't fight like that. You had to get down, so you had to gird your loins up so you could be mobile and be ready to run and be ready to fight, right? But they had girdles on, right? They always had girdles on. Okay, so I just want to show that too.
Con, and I don't know if we said it earlier, this isn't a full course meal where you're sitting down and taking your time. You eat this in haste.
Right.
Our forefathers, they ate in haste, not knowing what was going to happen next. Right. The anxiousness, the anxiety, the fear. Right. You hearing screams and shouts and cries. Right. This was a very dramatic scene. Right. Like the brother always said, you can't read the Bible like a white man. You got to really get into it. This was horrifying. Like, this was a horrifying scene, and you eating this food in haste, and you like, man, what's about to happen? What's going on? So don't sit down and eat like you had Ruth Chris. Or I've been talking about going here, Fogo de Chao, right? Sitting there just eating and patting your lips and leaning back, right? Eating haste.
Right.
Yeah. No, this isn't a kickback. Right, this is a solemn feast day that we take very seriously as a people.
And to kind of add on that, brothers really should be reading. You should be reading the book of Exodus, and at least primarily those first 15 chapters. So you know what's going on. Right? Don't just watch the videos all day. I'm not saying a lot of brothers are doing this, but there are some who just sit back and watch the videos, but you haven't read this for yourself. You haven't had the spirit, to envision these things. So when you read for yourself, your mind open up, the spirit sup with you. You can paint a picture through the spirit, or the Lord paints a picture for you through the spirit to be able to see how things were and what's going on. Read those chapters and read those gospels, right? Get into Matthew, get into Mark, get into Luke, get into John, right? We have ample time for brothers to be able to be reading that ancient history, and also the body of our Lord, and the sacrifice of Yahweh Shah for the Passover, right? Don't just go into the Passover as you were studying Bell and the Dragon for the last 6 months, right? And you have this whiteboard trying to figure out how Habakkuk got from jewelry to Babylon, and you got all these math equations and what it means. I never saw Babylon. I never saw. And you trying no, right? Brothers need to really get into the spirit, man. Get into the spirit of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right. From Todd Tully. What if you're poor? So I'm not really supposed to do the Passover per my clothes. And look, just asking. Well, brother, there's no law that says just based off of you. Okay, one, there's no law that says, okay, you look a certain way, therefore you don't keep the Passover. Two, what if you're poor, meaning if you can't financially afford to get lamb, bitter herbs, unleavened bread, and wine, that's a different situation. So, you do what you can, right? Brothers, you do what you can. Um, you could email us, King. Most High willing, brothers could, understand more of your situation, kind of see what's going on, through the spirit. But yeah, per your clothes and look, that has nothing to do with anything. You just want to be able to, we talked about garments. You might have heard, well, brothers, we talked about garments. If you have the means to do so, but that's not a requirement to have a beautiful garment. It's just something that exhibits great zeal that you have for the Most High, right? And your nation, right? Putting on that garment. But, I don't know if brothers had anything on this.
God, Exodus 12 and 4. It says, and if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls, every man according to his house. So like it, every man according to his eating shall make it count for the lamb. Right? I'm not sure if you're around brothers in the truth or families in the truth, right? If you don't have the means and you do have people who you congregate with or you study with or so on and so forth, right? See if they're able to help you out, right? See if you're able to keep Passover with them if you are, connected on that level, but you have to eat of the Passover, right? Don't take what we were saying just about garments and say I'm not going to eat of it, but you don't want to be sitting in your boxes in the beater eating the Passover, right? You want to make sure you have on a girdle like the brother was going into, right? You don't got to have a fabulous staff, right? You can go get a stick from outside,
Right, right.
right? It don't have to be extravagant if it's just you, but you want to make sure you're keeping the ordinances the way that you're supposed to.
Yeah. You don't got to get a big bag of flour either. You got little bags of flour, some water. It might just be flour, flour and water, you know? So, you know,
So like you don't have to stand up and eat. No, you can sit down, but you want to eat in haste.
come. Okay, the tray tube. I'm battling lust and a little another mental battles because I'm in a tight situation. How do I lock in for the Passover? So, con. Yeah, I'll get in there. Yeah, one good way, King. Let me get this in Mark the 9th chapter. Right here's always a good way dealing with lust. It's good that you can confess, and say that you're dealing with that. That's a good sign through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Abashad. But now it's time to understand. First, let me get this in James, the 4th chapter. This is James chapter 4 and 1. For whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your own lust, that war in your members? So you have to figure out where that lust is coming from. Is it from, lewd sites that you like to get on? Is it from, some woman at your job? Is it only from whence cometh these wars and fightings amongst you? You have to identify the source of your lust. It's one thing to just pray and, okay, I'm about to go on a fast, but if it's something that you can cut off, get rid of, or an individual that you can not talk to, or something that can be blocked, you need to go about, doing that. You got to identify what's causing that lust and then cut it off, or who's causing that lust and cut it off. So that self-examination, okay, you're dealing with it, but what's causing it? And chopping that head off or going right after the jugular, rather you got to block a number, separate from somebody, or only exactly what's driving that lust. And something that helps on the spirit, like brothers touch on all the time, is fasting. Right? This is Mark chapter 9 and 29. I'm going to get straight to the point. And he said unto them, this kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting. There are certain demons that can only be removed by the combination of prayer and fasting. And fasting is something we all should be doing because it's a beautiful way to purge out leaven and purge out sin and cleanse you. It's like, what's the word? Was it detoxifying? Is that the word? I think that's the word they use. Detoxifying. Detoxing or detox. You're going through a detox when you fast on a spiritual level, right? You're getting rid of all that waste and all that junk and all them evil spirits. And there are things that you purge out from you by the mercy of the Most High that you may not even be privy to. But the fact that you're making your body a sacrifice and throwing up those prayers, the Most High sends those angels down to work in your spirit to drive out those demons inside of you by means of war. So identifying that where it's coming from and also prayer and fasting, those are just small things that you can be able to do to help you lock in for Passover. Right, but the brothers got it.
I get one.
Come.
1 Corinthians chapter 11. And I start at verse 27. All right. It says, wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. So another way is fear, man. You know, this isn't a light matter. You know, certain things you could put off. You could put off mowing the grass. You could put off going to the store. Certain things you could put off. But you can't put off this weighty matter. When I mean by put off, I mean preparing yourself. You know, you see the fruit of certain brothers that may not have a garment. They don't know. They don't got their money together for traveling. They're all over the place. They wait till the day of to cleanse the house for the leaven. Their spirit didn't do preparation. You have a preparation day like the scriptures talk about. It was a set day that people actually prepared before the holy days came in, which is wise to do. If you're rushing and you're slipping and you're falling and your mind not right, and somebody call you, lose track and lose focus, then you could jam up your whole entire family. So, I mean, fasting is completely important, and fear, increasing the fear of the Lord. The Lord said the fear of the Lord driveth away sins. You can get that in Sirach, chapter 1. Let's go to the mighty book of Sirach, right, chapter 1. All right, let's go to Sirach, chapter 1, and let's start at verse 20. Was it verse 21? It says, the fear of the Lord driveth away sins. So the more you fear the Lord, the more likely you are to run away from all evil. The less you fear the Lord, the more accustomed you are to approaching near unto evil. Oh, it was just a joke. That's just my uncle. Man, it is what it is. You're going to have a Negro spirit. It says the fear of the Lord, meaning a man that truly fears God, he's going to show it not by his voice, but by his actions. It said, driveth away sins, man. The Lord drove away those men selling in the temple. Drive it away is a serious way of getting it the hell out your house. And where it is present, it turneth away wrath. So it abates your mind and wrath and hatred. So the more you fear the Lord, the more evil is going to flee from you, because you're not going to stand there and indulge in wickedness. Right? We can go back to it. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Right? I'm going to start at verse 28. But let a man examine himself. So Yahweh Shah HaMashiach is telling you good counsel through the hand of the Apostle Paul, telling you to examine yourself. Because if you do eat this and you didn't examine yourself, you will be destroyed, man. Right? Whether that's spiritually, you fall out this truth. A lot of people, they fall, you know, they fall out the truth in the last days, man. Right? It's chiefly after Passover. It says, but let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. So like your brothers got it.
God. Quick precept while the brother come back to it. Galatians 5 and 16. It says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, that ye cannot do the things that ye would. Right. So a good way to do it is to remain in the spirit. Right. Like the brother said in Sirach 12. Right. You have to make sure that you're walking in the spirit, so you don't get overcome with the things that are pulling you down. Right. It's a condition of the battle. Right. It's a condition of the battle. Are you going to fight? Or are you just going to continue to get stabbed up and sliced? Right. So you have to walk in the spirit. How do you walk in the spirit? Right. Meditate on the precept when that demon comes and hops on you. Right. Challenge yourself to remember 3 precepts when that lust spirit comes on. Right. Because everybody battles spirits. Right. It may be smoking. It may be excessive drinking. Right. It may be whoremongering. But that's why you have to stay in the spirit, especially in these last days when days are 10 times more wicked than they were the day before.
Come. You want to get back in there, Ryan?
Con, I get one more.
Yeah.
Sirach chapter 18.
Oh.
All right. Let's go to Sirach chapter 18 and verse 29. It says, Salak, I'm going to start at 30. It says, go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. Now, things of this world may feel appealing, but that's where discipline comes in, man. Discipline is extremely important for a man. That's how you lock in. That's how you change your physique on a physical level. That's how you change your appearance, right? I mean, people running up hills, they're working out all day long. They're actually putting their mind and training their mind. One of the hardest things to maintain is your mind, because your mind is going to tell you a million things. Not today, not right now, procrastination. It's going to give a million excuses. It's going to lead you astray. Your heart is wicked above all things. Who can know it? And like the Lord said, who can know it? Because right now you sleepy, 30 minutes later you crying. So who can know it, man? Who can know your own heart? So it says, go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If thou givest thy soul to the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies. And that's exactly what happens when all of these nations, they look at us, man, lusting and, getting drunk, getting high, having fun, and going after every appetite that the so-called black woman love and a black man loves, man, right? All these different sins, man, they laugh at you, right? It's saying in the book of Revelation, the 11th chapter, they sending gifts one to another, man. So these people actually are watching our downfall, and making mockery of it, laughing of it. It's saying in the book of Psalms, right? They say aha at you, man. They laughing at you physically. So, I mean, that's on a physical level, on a spiritual level. Those angels, I got them. This is easy. This is light work, man. You fighting in the spirit when, you have to show strength. And what I mean by show strength is you have to force yourself to read, force yourself to call somebody. If you just so easy to cave in, you do that one deep breath and you go to hell off, that's not strong. Lord said, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. It's not always talking about fighting somebody or showing brute strength on a physical level, right? You don't want to faint in the day of adversity. That adversity could be that spirit that approaches you when nobody's around. Perfect opportunity. You get an old text, man. Somebody hit you up on your damn email. Right? Does this still work? Are you still there? Right? She got your email from damn high school. Right? She was cleaning up her files and she found you. So Satan is gonna be hopping out of trees. All hell gonna be breaking loose, man. Your car could get towed, household problems. So demons are gonna arise more and more during this time. It says that malignity. So you can't overthrow yourself by taking heed of that lust. What I would do if I was you is I would fast. 2, I would let somebody aware, like you're doing now, through the spirit of the Most High, of what's going on, so they can counsel you and help you. And 2, depending on how strong it is, you may need somebody to help you, as far as checking in with a challenge, making sure you're staying occupied. Because when you're idle, you're prone to give yourself over to pastimes, hobbies, and the things you love to do when you have nothing else to do. So, I mean, doing a challenge can help. Brother can say, all right, we're going to read the book of Mark this week. All right, boom, I got to read the book of Mark. I got to finish it. We read the book of Psalms, right? 1 through 7. All right, I got to be occupied. I got to be locked in. So you want to be locked in. You don't want to be idle, right? And you want to fast. And you want to, above all things, you want to pray to the Most High with faith. You know, because you may not have the resources to do a lot of what we talked about, but through the faith of Yahweh Shemi Awashah, the Most High will remove that from you. Through your fight. I can get one more real quick. Second Esdras 10 and 24. The Lord said he helps you when you fight. He don't help you when you're weak. And you just sitting up there going off, got a blunt halfway to your lip, and you don't call upon the Lord and think the blunt is going to fly away, man. It says, and therefore shake off thy great heaviness and put away the multitude of sorrows, that the mighty may be merciful unto thee. So first and foremost, you got to shake that off, man. You got to believe that Yahweh Shai, through the hand of the Heavenly Father, can help you and strengthen you. If you don't believe that, and you have no actions, you're not shaking off heaviness, dust, and action, you're sitting in the corner in the dark, wondering why you're sinning, right? Then that's a decision you made. But the Lord said, you got to come to him. You got to shake that off. It says that the mighty may be merciful unto thee again, and the highest shall give thee rest and ease from thy labor. So the Lord's going to give you rest when you stand up and be a man. 1,000 precepts that talk about being a man, standing up, girt thyself. You know, the men of the Lord, they stand before the Lord, and then he direct them through the hand of the holy angels. So you got to show that strength, man. And showing the strength isn't necessarily you, it's you believing that the Lord can do what the Lord said he was going to do. But brothers got it.
God, that's right. That's right. That's right. So, Salakia. We close this. So, let's see if we get maybe like 1 or 2 more. Shalom, if we're not supposed to leave our house after putting blood on the door into the morning, why do we burn what remains of the lamb that night? Well, yeah, that was when the Lord said, don't, Yahweh Shah left this house, right? They left the house wherever they, at the man's upper room where they kept the Passover, and they went to the Garden of Gethsemane. So when the Lord said, don't leave your house, that was mainly for that time because of the destruction of the death angel that was coming, right? But we see Yahweh Shah left this house, Peter, John, they was out, they went to the Garden of Gethsemane, the Jews was out. So that's really what that was going into. But you're still supposed to burn the lamb that night because Yahweh Shai, in the Passover, he's set up as a Passover for that day. It's not something that's supposed to be, what's what I'm looking for? Like with a peace offering or certain things, you can have it for the second day, for the third day. If you don't eat your peace offering the third day, then it's an abomination, right? But the offering of Yahweh Shai is so mighty that it has to be burnt. The offering of them, of that Passover, has to be burnt that same day, and it can't be left up to the morning. Whereas there are other offerings in the law that you consume, like a peace offering that can carry, for day 2 or day 3, X, Y, and Z. So it's really going into the sanctity of Yahweh Shah's body, and its need to be consumed at that moment and not prolonged through the Spirit. Okay, well, we talked about this. Talked about the full moon. The full moon is not the new moon. All right, well, all praise to the Most High. If there's any questions that we didn't get to, we have the email. You can hit brothers up on their own personal social media, Most High willing. Hit us up on the Instagram, the main page, Instagram, and Lord willing, we can answer those questions. Make sure that list is out there for those who need it. Don't be discouraged if we didn't get to your question. We have other ways to be able to answer it. So, you can save it for the next Q&A, or you could, do it what was just suggested. But brothers, got any closing precepts?
I'll read it real fast. It's the book of Revelation, right? Chapter 3 and verse number 2, right? And And it reads, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, who have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So make sure that, man, brothers are watching in the last days. Continue to be in World War III news. Continue to get your families and your spirits prepared to enter to the Passover to come before the Lord. Brothers, God.
Come. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verse number 74. It says, "Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh is your God, and the God of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves." Right? So you can't let your sins weigh you down so much that you stop fighting for this truth. Right? So much that you give up. Right? The Most High is a guide unto them who keep his commandments and his statutes and precepts. Right? Like the brother said, you should be watching. Right? While we was doing this live, oil refinery in Port Arthur, Texas is on fire. Right? A mysterious fire happened there. Right? One of the largest consumers of oil for the United States. Right? Now is not the time to be weak. Now is not the time to be woe is me. I don't know what to do, and you just down. No, now is the time to gird up your loins as a man, right? And a woman, as well. Woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns that no man may travel through. It is left undressed and cast into the fire to be consumed. Right? So if you have no fight within you, you're nothing more than just a field that's covered with dry shrubs and nothing, ready to be consumed in the fire. So stay girded up, strong, and don't let Satan get the advantage over you.
And I'm going to go to Revelation chapter 22 and verse number 12. It reads, "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be." So you see the prophecies unfolding. You see all hell breaking loose, these energy wars, energy lockdowns, gas fields, oil fields, sea mines, streets closed, the end of the dollar. All hell is breaking loose, man. These are exciting times. Most High willing, brothers are watching. Most High willing, everybody understands how soon we are, because brothers are measuring the times, how soon we are to getting up out of here, man. How many few prophecies we actually have left that are written. And understand that there's a reward for all of your labor, and you're going to get that reward if you continue in that work and labor until the end. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh, B'Hashem HaMashiach, Kwam Shai, Brother Naquan,
Brother Amos.
Shalom, Brother White.
Kwam Yashala. Shalom.